Was you sitting here? You want me to move?
No. Here, I'll move down here.
Now I'm gonna go talk to Lori.
I'll tell you what, Sarah. Every section needs at least one more. You got it. She was there, like the first year, my first term, my first through second year. Right. So you've had her 10 or 12, something like that. She got all these.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Good. How you
Thanks
doing?
for sharing her with us, because I'm gonna tell you what, I just told Sarah, I said, every department in here needs a Rosie.
She loves her job. I know that.
Hey, well, county administrator called us, and I mean, we didn't even advertise. He said, I got somebody for you. I said, who? And he said, Rose. Well, the guy she worked for before, I thought the world of him.
How about Jim?
Jim.
This is my sister Jody.
Hi,
This is Harold. How are
pleased to
you?
meet you, ma'am. You look a little alike.
Do we?
Same size.
I'm cuter.
I think I'm taller.
Look, you ain't gonna get me hurt when I go back in there.
What's that?
I say you're not gonna get me hurt when I go back in there. I don't come out there. Ask Rose. I don't go in there every day. When you get good people, I don't. What's that word? I want to use micromanage.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's really no need, you
She
know.
does good. I told her. Just so you know, I told her keep her speech to about an hour.
Right. Yes. That's what she told me. She probably only want to be up there.
I don't.
Oh, yeah,
I do
you
not
got
like
to
being
have-
the center of attention.
Well, you have to tonight.
I know.
Only be for a few
She was
minutes.
voted out all the section heads for this job. That didn't come just from us.
Oh really?
She really? We don't have anything. We just don't know. We'd be prejudiced with her. But I'll tell you, that's all. My wife died 6 months ago.
Sorry.
No, 6 years ago.
I mean, 6 years
I was gonna
ago.
say, oh
6
my
years ago.
goodness.
No, 6
Yeah,
years.
6 years.
But I'm telling you, they're all like family. You know, treat me good. And I asked, before I ran the last time, I said, do you want me to come back or do you want somebody else? He said, run again. So I did. One thing I can assure you, I'm retired state police.
Okay.
And I've been upset a couple of times. You've never seen me that way, but Kay has. If anybody messes with any people in that office, and I don't have to worry now because Pete's in there. He's doing all this stuff in the computer.
But before you'd have to jump up and say something.
Well, if they call me out here, it's
Say,
gonna
I
look
can
different.
imagine some of the people come in here with these wills and stuff.
Well, let me tell you something. She know her graph too.
Oh, I know.
Yes, she does.
I do. I learned from the best.
Let me tell you something. If you do that and you know you,
I don't have any issues at all.
did you tell him about the evaluation you done?
I just told him it was good. I didn't tell him everything.
Unheard of.
Yeah, it was a very good one.
There ain't many getting that good for being in.
Yeah, it was good. It was really, really good.
Good evening. Welcome to Kent County Levy Court combined meeting, business and committee meetings. We're meeting at 555 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware. This is Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. We are in the Levy Court chambers. Before we proceed to the meeting, we'll have the county administrator read some of the rules we need to follow in order to have people that are joining us by phone and or WebEx. So, Mr. County Administrator, turn to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this meeting is being conducted in 555 Bay Road, Dover, in the Levy Court chambers. However, we are making this meeting available via the internet through WebEx, and we may have people joining the meeting that way. So for their benefit, we just want to have a few words of instruction. Throughout the meeting, there will be opportunity for public comment, and folks joining us via WebEx will have the opportunity, just like as if they were here, to provide comment to Levy Court. And we'll repeat these instructions throughout the meeting, but if you're on a phone, you can press *3. It would raise an electronic hand, and our operator will be able to recognize you and allow you into the meeting. *6 mutes and unmutes your phone. And also, if you're on a computer, laptop, or other computer, on the WebEx screen, you'll see at the bottom a raise hand symbol and a mute and unmute button, and we would ask you to use those at the appropriate time to be recognized by first raising your electronic hand, and we can then bring you into the meeting room. And we'll have further instruction throughout the meeting. This meeting is a combined meeting, which means we're conducting business. We're also holding committee meetings. And as such, the adopted rules of procedure that apply to Levy Court business meetings and committee meetings are in effect, along with the Mason's Rules of Order. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you, sir. We have already come to order. We'll ask Commissioner Angel for an invocation this evening. Commissioner Hall, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Sweeney, a moment of silence for our troops and first responders. All rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty, protecting and fighting for our freedoms. We also honor all first responders and medical staff who have succumbed to COVID-19 virus complications contracted through close interaction with infected patients, losing their lives caring for others. As of today, more than 617,000 Americans, 1,683 Delawareans, and 347 Kent Countyans have lost their lives to COVID. Please remember these individuals and their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved ones. National Guard First Sergeant Casey Hart from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Trooper John Harris, Mississippi Highway Patrol from Clarksdale, Mississippi. Police Officer Gennaro New from Phoenix, Arizona. Sergeant Dominic Vase, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Detective Ryan Park, San Diego Police Department. Detective Jamie Huntley Park from San Diego PD. Officer Emmanuel Familia from Worcester PD in Massachusetts. Deputy Sheriff William H. Smith, Baldwin County Sheriff's Office, Alabama. Sergeant Erasmo Garcia Torres, Puerto Rico Police Department. Officer Alexandria Brenneman Harris from Seattle Police Department. Officer Joseph Burson, Holly Springs PD in Georgia. Officer Gordon Beasley, Arvada PD, Colorado. And K-9 Kit from the Braintree Police Department in Massachusetts. Volunteer firefighter Charles Spry from the LaGrange Fire Department in North Carolina. Smoke jumper Tim Hart from the U.S. Forestry Service in Hidalgo County, New Mexico. Firefighter Ralph DeBlasi, Township 7 Fire Department in North Carolina. Firefighter Christopher Yock, San Francisco Fire Department, California. And Fire Chief Doug Dugan from the Titans,ville Fire Department, Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Lori, can we have a roll call, please? Determine quorum.
Mr. Angel,
Present.
Mr. Buxton,
Present.
Mr. Hall,
Here.
Mr. Howell, absent. Mrs. Maston,
Present.
Mr. Sweeney,
Here.
Mr. Pepper.
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Commissioner Howell did advise me he's going to try to WebEx in or call in by phone sometime during the meeting. Need a motion on the adoption of tonight's agenda.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton.
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell, absent. Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. The agenda has been adopted. Need a motion on tonight's consent agenda, 21-06.
Move to approve consent agenda 21-06, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Maston to approve tonight's consent agenda, 21-06. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton.
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell, absent.
Yes.
Mrs. Maston, yes. Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. The consent agenda has been approved. But this is listed normally, or different than normally. The Levy Court business meeting minutes of Tuesday, May 25th and June 8th, were they both supposed to be under consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this evening we have a couple of presentations. First item is Resolution 3890, retirement of David Nesbitt II, if we let him. Can we have that read into, this is a resolution, can we have that read, please?
Whereas the retirement of David Nesbitt II, an employee of Kent County, State of Delaware, from his duties as paramedic 2, Department of Public Safety, Emergency Medical Services Division, presents a suitable opportunity for expressing the esteem in which we hold David Nesbitt II as a good and faithful public servant. Therefore be it resolved that the County of Kent express its warmest appreciation and thanks to David Nesbitt II for the able and loyal manner in which he performed his public duties. Be it further resolved that this resolution be his evidence of a right to the pension provided by the Kent County Employees Retirement Program, and that this resolution be and hereby is incorporated into the official minutes of the June 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Kent County Levy Court.
Okay, this is a resolution 3890. We do need a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the resolution 3890, the retirement of David Nesbitt II.
Second.
Thank you. Have a motion by Commissioner Masson, second by Commissioner Buxton. Have roll call, please.
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell, absent. Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Not really in favor of it, but yeah, we'll say yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Okay. David, you come forward. We'll have the county administrator present your official paperwork here. And you've got until you shake his hand to say you're not going to retire.
Thank you, and I know I can't get you to stay here full-time, but have you considered part-time? That option is on the table. Anyway, Dave, it's been a pleasure. I'm trying. It's been a pleasure working with you over the years, and it's been more of a pleasure knowing you over the years. You've been an outstanding paramedic, and you've done a lot of good for a lot of folks, a lot of patients. You've done a lot of good for a lot of our staff, too, and your wisdom and your guidance to them over the years kept me on my toes a few times. It was a pleasure working with you when you was president of the union, and we're going to miss you, but we wish you all the best in your retirement. And I will say we've been fortunate in public safety to have employees that come to us from the military, and I think this bears mentioning. Dave is a prior member of the United States Marine Corps, so I think that does warrant mentioning, and thank you for your service for that as well. But thank you for working with us all over the years. Do appreciate it. Good luck in your retirement.
David, I see a number of your fellow colleagues. They want to come on down and get in a picture with Kelly, and if things be appropriate. So, and I'm going to present this to you right now, and after you get a photo op, maybe have something to say to the commission. Maybe have something to say to you. Congratulations, David.
I don't see you guys any good.
Any commissioners have anything to say? Commissioner Buxton?
Say two things. Number one, I knew I was in trouble when I was kind of encouraged to do the seconding. Normally, these guys are jumping at the opportunity to both, make the motion and then second, which is a compliment to you because they obviously didn't want to be the seconding member that allowed you to get away. And then I'll say the other one. Well, two, as someone who just retired. Congratulations, and I appreciate your service. 21 years, especially in the career that you chose to partake in with the county. It's exceptional. It's outstanding. And I would like to make a motion. Can't fix it tonight, but the next time we have somebody come in with 21 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever years, that if you're vaccinated, let's go up there and have a nice photo shoot. How about that? Because I don't see the harm.
We'll work on that for the next one.
How about it? Amen. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Mast?
Congratulations and best wishes as you write the next chapter in your book, but When the chief said it'd be nice for you to consider coming back part-time, that would be a very nice thing to hear tonight.
It's always in the back of my brain. It's very difficult giving up a job like this, actually having to help so many people. It is very difficult, very bittersweet. But I have to listen to my body, and it's telling me it's time. So that's the biggest aspect, the biggest part right there.
Well, thank you, David, also, and I hope you do come back and help us. And I'm sure your military background prepared you a lot for what you did in the field too, because it is a war zone out there, even for EMS people today. So, thank you very much for your service.
Any other comments? Mr. Hall?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for your service with the Marine Corps, and 20 years with the county is commendable for any employee, but working as a paramedic, you've done a lot of good for a lot of lives, and just appreciate all the service that you've done.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sweeney?
Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I wish you well in your retirement. Live it to the fullest that you can.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Buxton?
one request. Who's the crew behind you?
It's my wife and my 2 youngest children.
We're going to get a picture of them, too.
I would highly encourage us to take 2 minutes to allow you to convene down front with the crew, the rest of the medics, heck, even the president of Levy Court. Get yourself a good photo. It's the least we can do for somebody that's given us 21 years.
Okay, sir.
So come on down, crew, please.
While they're coming down, David, I really am sincere when I say that I hate to see you go.
Thank you, Mr.
You've been one heck of a leader, and you, like Chief said, you've done a lot of good for a lot of people, and we really hate to see you go. I hate to see all that experience go out the door. I would like to see it come back part-time, or whenever. So, but yeah, you've really been an asset. We hate to see you go, but best of luck to you. I hope everything goes your way in the years to come, and you have a great long life to live from this point on. And everything that's on your bucket list, I hope you get it done. Hope you get that bucket empty.
Thank you.
So I'll come down at Commissioner Buxton's request to get a picture with you, and well, bid you farewell, but not goodbye. All right.
Outstanding.
Okay, we have one more presentation this evening. Employee of the Month for July 2021.
Kent County Department heads have selected Rose M. Wurzel from the Register of Wills office as the July 2021 Employee of the Month. Rose started with Kent County in July 2011 as a clerk typist in the Economic Development Office and transferred to the Wills Clerk 2 position in the Wills office in August of 2020. Her primary duties include greeting the public, answering the telephone, and cross-indexing and filing correspondence and legal documents. Rose is also responsible for entering copious amounts of data into the computerized record system and maintaining will and estate records for the office. Supervisors report that Rose is very thorough and receives many compliments on her ability to assist departments or the general public in researching information. According to Kent County Register of Wills, Harold K. Broad, Rose is extremely organized and a great addition to this office. She is always eager to learn and welcomes change whenever necessary. Rose's selection as Employee of the Month is an honor she well deserves. Congratulations, Rose, on the job well done. And she resides in Commissioner Maston's and Pepper's districts. The tribute reads, Kent County Levy Court, July 2021 Employee of the Month, Rose M. Wurzel. On this, the 22nd day of June 2021, the Levy Court of Kent County, State of Delaware, does hereby recognize Rose M. Wurzel, Wills Clerk 2, Office of the Kent County Register of Wills, for her exceptional initiative, dedication, and conscientiousness in the delivery of services to the citizenry of the county.
Yeah, I think Rose is hiding behind the podium there.
Commissioners, Mr. Eliason, Mike Pettit-Modge, and Lori, this young lady needs no introduction. She's been with the county for 10 years and us for 10 months. And she's just like family to the rest of us down there. And let me tell you something, when somebody comes in there and gets on somebody, Rose can handle the situation. I don't think she needs to call the guard out front. But, yeah, or Diane. But you guys were good enough to give us another employee starting in July. And this young lady's going to be the one that's going to be doing the training. So that's how much we think of her. And I'll tell you, we couldn't do without her. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to show you my worth.
We need it.
Rose, I just presented you with the tribute that was read into the record on behalf of the commissioners, all your county fellow county employees. We congratulate you. Thank you for your example. You started here in 2011, and I think when you transferred to the Wills office, you hit your groove and took off.
Love it.
And you know, and from what I've heard, Diane and Harold, you're doing a fantastic job. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And your husband's here.
Yeah, he's going to have a speech. He's got a speech for you.
I thought you was giving a speech.
I thought you prepared a speech. No, he prepared a speech.
No, I sound like a 2-year-old if I try to make a speech in
No,
front of everyone.
no, don't make a speech. I'm just kidding.
That's amazing. You didn't even sit close to each other.
Welcome to Levy Court, David. Thank you for sharing Rose.
That's my sister.
Slight resemblance. Nice to meet you. Rose, you want to say a few words?
I don't. Thank you, guys. You all know that I don't like all the attention, so I have nothing to say. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Any commissioners want to say anything?
She does hers with work.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Congratulations. There was no doubt in my mind after you getting into the Wills Department from the rumors I've heard that this was headed your way sooner or later. So congratulations.
Fantastic. Anybody else? Any other commissioners? Yeah, congratulations, Rose. You know, people come into the Wills office, it's probably one of the saddest times of their life. When they come in and see your smile, I'm sure that means the world to them. So thank you and congratulations.
Don't want to ruin that camera.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for indulging us. At this time, we'll move into the public hearings. And the first item on the agenda is ordinance LC 21-12.
President Pepper, we do have a couple of introductions tonight.
Oh, I guess I do, don't I? I didn't realize they were going to be here tonight.
So
Can we
thank
do
you.
those?
Yes, President Pepper, we do have two intros, and if I may, I'd like to take them out of order as opposed to the memo. And that's because the Director of Public Works, Diana Galt, is on vacation this week. And so I had the honor of introducing her new employee, which Austin, if you could join me up here, was hired. Austin Hart was hired in the Public Works Department on June the 7th as a secretary in the engineering division. She most recently worked at PAM Rehabilitation Hospital in Dover as a health information management technician. And prior to that, she worked at Surgical Associates as a medical receptionist. Austin resides in Commissioner Howes and Pepper's districts. Austin?
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity, and I look forward to a long and lengthy future with all of you.
Great. Commissioner Howell isn't here this evening. However, I am. So I'd just like to welcome you aboard, welcome you to the Kent County Levy Court family, and wish you a very long career here. I hope you remain happy throughout your career.
Very excited, so yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the Director of Facilities, Sam Vasquez, to introduce the new employee in his office. Sam?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to introduce Neil Martinez. Neil was hired on June 1st as a Maintenance Worker 1 in the Facilities Management Office. Most recently, he worked for Sagrin Gas as an HVACR mechanic. Neil resides in Commissioner Maston's and Pepper's district. With his skill set in HVAC, we certainly have a need here, and I'm really looking forward to longevity, maybe 20 years.
Sounds good to me.
All right, step up here, Neil.
Sounds good to me. How's everyone doing tonight? Hey, I just want to thank everyone. It's an honor to be employed by Kent County Levy Court. I know I look forward for many, many years, and so one day I can retire from here as well. But it's been a great honor. I want to thank Sam, Brian, and Elaine. They've been showing me the building and showing me the ropes, and everybody. I've been meeting everyone, and everyone's been so nice, polite. It's really, really great to be employed here. Everyone's been so friendly. So it's an honor.
Welcome to the family. Commissioner Maston?
Welcome to you, Neil, and I wish you the very best of luck in the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We're looking for 20. I think Sam put that in the contract.
Yeah. We could probably pull off 25 for sure.
Great. Thank you. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll open the public hearing on ordinance LC 21-12, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Maston for the motion.
First item for public hearing is ordinance LC 21-12, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of Kent County refunding revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $3,500,000 for the benefit of the Charter School Incorporated, doing business as Campus Community School, to refinance its high school facility located at 350 Pear Street in Dover, Delaware. Back to you, President Pepper.
Okay, is anyone here from Campus Community who would like to say any words tonight? If not, any commissioners?
We may have someone online that.
Yeah, we better check that.
If we have anyone from Campus Community or who wishes to address Levy Court on LC 21-12, if you're on a phone, *3 will raise your hand, or you could do it on the icon on the WebEx screen.
Ms. Ninen, you may proceed at this time.
This is Emily Ninen from Ballard Bar. I'm happy to bond counsel to the county. When we discussed this last week, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. and then Heidi Green, who's head of schools, also on the WebEx.
Okay, that was Emily Ninen on the call, so she's not testifying per se, but she's here to answer any questions. If we have any guests who wish to address Levy Court public comment, *3 on your phone or raise your hand on your computer screen.
Ms. Green, you may proceed at this time.
I was just stating that I was also here to represent Campus Community School, and we hope that you are in favor of this.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Green? Seeing none?
We have any other callers on the line that wish to address this matter with Levy Court? *3 on your phone. Raise your electronic hand.
There appears to be no one else on WebEx at this time.
Okay. Seeing no one else here in favor, anyone opposed? Anyone opposed to this ordinance, LC 21-12? Please come forward, or
if you're joining us remotely, same sign and *3 on your phone, or raise your electronic hand to address Levy Court in opposition to ordinance LC 21-12.
No one on WebEx at this time.
thank you. See no one opposed to ordinance LC 21-12. Any commissioners have any questions before we close the public hearing? Seeing none. Close the public hearing and ask for roll call, please.
Have to have a motion.
Yes, we do have to have a vote, don't we? Yeah. So can we have a motion and a vote after the motion? Yeah.
I move to approve ordinance LC 21-12, authorizing the issuance of Kent County refunding revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $3,500,000 for the benefit of the charter school doing business as Campus Community School to refinance its high school facility located at 350 Paris Street in Dover, Delaware.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Maston, second by Commissioner Buxton. Now, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Public opposition. I see good value in this.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 21-12 has been approved. This time we'll recess to committee meetings. So bring the committee meetings to order. The first item on the agenda is Community Services Committee. Commissioner Sweeney, Chair. Turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, we continue the discussion about the Goggin Mansion and what the opportunity that we have for presenting the history of Kent County to anybody who would like to visit that site. We have with us Mr. Rigby, who is representing the Department of Community Services as Mr. Shepard's on vacation. We also have a treat in Lucretia Wilson, who is going to join up front and discuss a little bit about the existing Star Hill Museum and what her ideas are. So, Mr. Rigby, do you want to approach first? And Ms. Wilson, as soon as Mr. Rigby's done, you can come right up to the podium.
I'd like to introduce Ms. Lucretia Wilson. She's the head of the AME Star Hill Museum there. We have visited that museum once, and we've had several meetings with Mrs. Wilson. So if Mrs. Wilson wants to come down, we can go ahead and start your presentation.
Good evening. My name, as he said, is Lucretia Wilson, and for the past 33 years, I have been the curator, the founder, and the curator of the Star Hill AME Church Museum. In those 33 years, we started out as an exhibit. And shortly after that, thanks to Mrs. Lola Gibbs, whose great-great-grandfather, Absalom Gibbs, and my mother, Mrs. Minnie Thompson, believe it or not, I'm very proud of, because I love to tell it, she was an airplane mechanic working on the B-52 bombers during World War II. And so I spent a lot of time out at Kelly Air Force Base in San Antonio. My mother was a historian, and she instilled in me that you have to know your history. If you don't know your history, and if you don't know the history of your ancestors and the path that they took, the things that they went through, then how can we know where we're going and what path we'll take? We have to keep this history preserved for our youth that are coming. Well, I imagine I'm probably older than all of you, but anyway, the youth that are coming along. I have been doing tours, as I said, for 33 years. And as I've covered Odessa, not so much Wilmington, but all of Kent County, Sussex County, and it has been a little thorn in my side for the past 6 or 8 years. There's not a museum that says Kent County Museum. We have no museum. You know, we have the Johnson Victrola Museum, we have all the other museums, but there's not one that says Kent County Museum. And that has bothered me and stuck with me for a long time. Now that I have sort of reached that age where I'm ready to hand the mantle over to someone else or to younger people, and I'm not going anywhere. I will be there to help every step of the way. I would like my vision that I see every day, and especially when I take people to see other sites, is a museum in Kent County. The first vision that I had was the Hun House, but the Hun House is pretty much off the beaten path. So the Goggins House would make an excellent museum. And I already have about 3 or 4 pieces that if somebody can come and get them, they're all ready to go in the house. I'm all ready to start working on helping to get that set up as a museum and to do what I can as long as I can in getting it done. So that is what I really wanted to just get to you and speak to you about, was my vision, and hope it'll become your vision, that we take the Goggins House, and who knows, maybe some other places here in Kent County that can become the Kent County Museum. I have lived in Kent County since I was 10 years old, right in the same area of Star Hill. We won't go into how old I am now, but anyway, I've lived there since I was 10 years old. I've been a member of the Star Hill AME Church for 70 years, and Mrs. Gibbs, not that I wanted to, Mrs. Gibbs, my mother, and a historian by the name of Solomon Gibbs and Jack Goins, they pushed me into this. I didn't want to do it. I really did. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't want to do a museum. And Mr. Pat Dyer used to come and says, you know, your road was part of the Underground Railroad. Not my road. I'm from Texas. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. It's not my road. And they kept pushing and pushing until finally, you know, you just, after a while, you just can't fight them any longer. And I just said a prayer, prayed to God and talked with him several times and said, if this is what you want me to do, let's make it happen. But you've got to be in charge. You've got to guide and direct me, and you've got to help me. They did for most, well, until 2006, when they decided to leave me and go to heaven. Don't think that was very fair, but they did. So now the museum is there. I'm kind of tired, and I'm ready to help, but I'm not ready to be in charge. And I have had this vision, and I would like to pass it to each one of you, the same vision, to let's have a Kent County museum. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Wilson. So you stand right there. I'm hoping that there will be questions. Mr. Pettit-Damage, Mr. Rigby, Mr. Shepherd, and I have been to the Star Hill Museum and had a nice tour. I've been there a number of other occasions. And how many items, not the pictures, not the history, but how many items do you think you have in your collection?
I could not even begin to tell you. I would say, I would have to say they were close to 50.
So that those items, but they span over all the years that the existence of Kent County, and they represent the life of slaves that were on farms here in Delaware.
Focuses on what it was like to live as a slave. And not only slave, but white people, brown people, what it was like to live back during the time of slavery. And it focuses on what they had to go through. And I will be the first one to tell you, they would shoot me, they would throw me to the wolves or what. But what they had to go through through the woods, sticking close to the water, and then to prepare themselves for leaving, they had to cover themselves with garlic, with onions, with peppers, anything that smelt really bad so that they would keep the dogs off of their trail. They always traveled close to the water so that if the slave catchers came near them, they could always get in the water. They had to, and I give God the credit for this, they never knew what they were going to eat once they were on the road. They packed dry beef, hard bread, something protein. They, I'm going to tell my age, though. When I was a little girl, they called it paregoric. I don't know what they called it back then, but there were leaves that would keep babies quiet. And they bought sugar with them. Mom would take her finger and wet it, keep it wet, and stick it in the sugar, and then put the paregoric on it to keep the baby quiet. Because with a lot of slaves, and one I can say particularly because there's documentation on it, Harriet Tubman says, you quiet the baby, you keep the baby quiet, however, we're going on no matter what. And there's no turning back. You turn back, I'll shoot you. I'd have been gone. I'd have been gone, that's it, I'd have been gone. Because I'm not eating no possum, I am not eating no rabbits, I'm not eating nothing that's in the woods. They knew which berries to pick, and they always knew that they always followed the North Star. So that was, they depended on people, what we call abolitionists, to help them get from one site to the next site. They provided them with food. They provided them with shoes. They traveled all night, 10 to 15 miles an hour, because they had to hide during the day. It was not easy. A lot of times they were barefoot. And my question has always been, I have wondered this forever and ever. How in the world did they know which berries to pick off a tree? What they could eat off the ground? They hunted down rabbits, jackrabbits, possums, squirrels, anything that they could eat. They would kill it, they would light a fire, and then they would go about away I'm gonna say close to a half a mile, about 1/4 of a mile, and they would sit and wait. If it didn't attract the attention of any slave catchers, then they would come back, cook that meat real quick, put the fire out, and leave and go somewhere else and eat it. That was what life was like with them. So that's the story that we focus on. What they had to go, not who, but what they had to go through while they were escaping on the Underground Railroad, and what they had to go through living as a slave. I've had students, and the Holy Spirit told me this is what your focus is. I could see this child as clear as I can see you guys. He came up to me one evening. They were standing outside the church in the cold, and I said, well, come on in here with me. And he says, what are you doing? And I says, I'm working on a Black History exhibit. And I started naming off all the famous African Americans and all this and that. And he said, ma'am, excuse me, no disrespect. He said, but what did they eat? Where did they take a bath? I said, they didn't. Oh, I bet there were some stinking people. I said, by the time you got up before sunup and you worked till sundown, everybody stunk. And you didn't matter, you didn't care. You had to eat whatever the owners didn't want. There had to be a teenager, a young person, that had to stay by the fire every night and make sure that fire was going every night and there was hot water every night. Because if the owner decided at 3 in the morning he wanted to take a bath or whatever, he wanted to soak his feet, oh, God bless him, whatever, and he called down to the slave, the slave couldn't say, well, master, just give me a little bit of time here, got a little bit of time, gotta go get some wood, gotta get the fire going. That child is gonna be dead because they had the right to shoot anyone they wanted to.
So your collection does a great job of depicting all that history that you're talking about.
We talk about that. I teach about that history. We display other history. Delaware history, places associated with Delaware history, with African American history, sites that we give site tours, of sites where they hid slaves, where people hid slaves. And you would be surprised at the people that hid slaves that to this day, very few people know about. And it's right in Kent County. It's right here in Kent County.
Are there any questions for Ms. Wilson? Commissioner Pepper.
So we already know you don't know quite how many items that you have. So I would guess that means it's not inventoried anyway.
In my head. All the information, all the history, everything is in my head.
So I've had the honor of going through the museum and having a tour of it. It's been quite some time ago, and I don't quite recall everything that was there. But a different item. I mean, if there's something there, I don't know whether it be a pot or whatever. Is there something written down to state what the significance of it is and why it's there, or who owned it, or anything like that? Is there anything written down about that, or when you give tours, you know it in your head and you tell the stories?
There is some things that are written down. There is a lot of some research history, some done by me, some done by other people. But mostly the history that really you'd want to know is in my head. And it just never, since I had to, take care of everything, it just never, just the idea of writing it all down and putting it all down just never entered my mind. And I have here recently, now that I've said, look, I want to be a helper. I don't want to be in charge anymore. I didn't want to have to go do research. I still do. Just a short little story off track. I was in Utah visiting my daughter, and they took her to the hospital. They thought that she had aneurysms. Well, there was no way in the world I was coming back to Delaware with my daughter possibly having brain aneurysms. So while I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm on the computer, and I find out about the Black Tank Battalions. We had 5 of them in the United States. The 564th was the main battalion out of Massachusetts under the guidance of General George S. Scott. And they were called the Fighting Black Panthers. I love them. There was another group called, their emblem was lightning. They wore emblems on their arm. And because we strike like lightning. There was another one with an emblem of an elephant. And that was because we never forget. And our main thing is we can't forget where those that came before us and went through all the hardships they did, we can't forget them. Or else we're going to turn right around in a circle and go through the same thing again. We can't know where we're going until we know where we came from. And I invite you all. So retired. I don't have to work 10 o'clock now. I don't have to work 10 o'clock. I worked 40 years to not have to get up before 10 o'clock. But I invite you all to come and see the museum while it's there. Because I am, at some point, going to start packing it up. I have for the county, if you want it, a beautiful, gigantic, oval 12-foot table that would go perfect in the parlor at the Goggins house. That have a trunk in the museum. Somebody with I'm not looking at me, but somebody with talent paint that a nice creamy color, and then the straps that's on the trunk, paint those a different coat to match the house. It would be beautiful. I have other things that can help to start out. I even have stuff in my house that had belonged to my mother before I was born. Hey, you want it? Come get it.
Mr. Rigby, we've been to, there's more than 50 items in there. I'd say there's probably 150, 200 items in there. Yeah. Yeah. Commissioner Buxton has a question.
Appreciate you, and I absolutely appreciate the conversation and the stories. You can tell you're good at it, passionate at it, and versed at it. So, and that's a good obsession, meaning you carry the message well. Yes.
Lucretia, you
I can't do the things that I used to do. I climbed the ladders, and I actually built and made displays by myself. And now, my mind says, you can still do it, but my body says, you're telling a lie, we're not doing none of that anymore.
and Lucretia, use the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please,
I'm
you can pull it over there to the side if you want.
I'm so used to talking to people, and I like to move around because I feel closer to you. I feel a connection to you when I can move around, but standing in one spot.
Your voice is carrying very well up here, but we have people who would be listening. We record this for people to watch later.
And my mother always said I had a big mouth, and that I never ever needed a microphone. I guess that's why I always shy away from one. But your question, please.
The command about her, and I just think it's great. And I have some familiarity with Star Hill. I have many, many good memories running through those.
So do
those
I.
Streets and playing a little football and pick up baseball and all that stuff back when it was something you could do. Used to have a big field there by Palmer Park, and man, the football games we had out there were, oh boy.
Going to the Kent Drive-In Theater, walking up there and sitting up front, and then going home and flying by home because we thought there were ghosts in the cemetery. And I'm going to tell you a little story. I never, in all the years that I've been there, I never went into the cemetery until 1992. They would say, well, you know, we got to take a walk out there. See, that cemetery is not bothering me. I don't have to go out there and bother it.
And I have some familiarity with the AME Church.
156 years old.
I was out at the one out there, Felton Harrington.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, the Holy Ghost was in the house.
Yes. Yes.
I was invited to a christening, and 4.5 hours later, goodness.
Yes.
That place is alive.
That's what you call not having church, but doing church.
Oh, it was doing church.
You're doing church. Yes.
Doing church.
Yes.
It was
It has
wonderful
hurt us a lot with the AME churches being closed because of the pandemic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get to some specifics, just to have a clear understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the pieces of your collection are relatively small, like signage, like maybe this signage with an artifact of sorts, or a picture.
A lot of them are pictures.
Yeah.
A lot of them are books.
Yeah. So most of
I
them,
haven't made the decision where the books are going to go.
Sure.
But there are books that you could, any kind of information you want, we have it.
Sure.
I have tutored and worked with kids and teachers from Arizona, Bowie, Chicago, Texas. They've flown up to work with on projects.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that slaves would have made that they would have used. Few pieces from Africa, and then a lot of what they would have had. We do a display as well. Like he said, there's probably 150, maybe two. I've never counted them. I mean, I'm just there
so
with them.
You do have a few larger pieces. The table probably would be described as maybe
The
the
table
largest.
belongs to the Hun. The one that I'm talking about belongs to the Hun family.
Sure.
Alan and Shirley Hun gave it to us. But the one that you're talking about, yes, it was donated to the museum.
Okay.
But we can't use it. It's too large.
Sure.
But it would fit perfectly at the Goggins house.
Okay. Are most of the pieces displayed currently?
Mm-hmm.
So we have an understanding of the size and magnitude of it?
Mhm.
Okay, sure. All right, I was just curious of what it is that we have two roles to play. Obviously, you've made a bold statement. You'd like to see a Kent County museum.
I've seen it for 6 years.
Sure. And that's a tall task, but we can have that conversation. Secondary conversation to that might be in conjunction, or at a minimum, while we're working towards that, what do we do with the collection? What do we do to assist you with the collection?
Well,
and
the way-
prominently display it,
Mhm.
in a manner that does it justice. So, and that helps when I understand the magnitude of it. So, anyway.
The way it looks right now, I've been having some health issues. And as I said, I'm 80 years old and I'm tired. So right now, I'm looking at putting it in storage. There are wonderful, wonderful stories about a lot of the pieces that if we had some sandwiches and soda or whatever, you would just be amazed at the stories that I could tell you of how that museum came together. But anyway, right at the moment, just right at this moment, I'm thinking that until a decision or until something can be done, it's going to have to go in storage, probably by the end of the summer.
I am somewhat speaking out of turn because I typically like to have these conversations off to the side. But while we have a larger conversation about potentially a museum, we could have a smaller one that we could potentially work out. We have a significant amount of display cases within this building itself, and there's the chance to prominently display, with your help, of course, if you were able to visit the county monthly and change out some of the displays. I don't own this place. I haven't run it by anybody. But it might be an option.
Something to think about. It is something to think about. And all I can say is just something to
decide
think
tonight,
about.
but it's something that I think could be a conversation, because the bigger one, the museum, that's a big conversation. That's a long-range conversation, and it may not assist your immediate need, which is you'd like some relief, but you don't want to give up on it because there's value.
Oh,
in
I will
displaying
not.
it.
No, I will not.
Okay, well, that's something we can have. We don't need to hold the meeting up tonight, but I, offer it out there as a potential for something.
So, Mr. Buxton, to answer that, our intent tonight is to, under consensus, direct community services to start working with Ms. Wilson to catalog all the items that would be included in that which she wants to leave to Levy Court or give to Levy Court. What we do with it after that, we need to decide. I'm going to put Ms. Parkowski on the spot. Sorry. And I know, look, Linda has done a great job with economic development in this county with everything that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years. Linda, it's fantastic. And the business side of things is wonderful. Don't we owe it to Kent Countyans and those who travel through here to start looking at the culture side? Would that not help businesses as well?
I think all of that plays into the quality of life.
Right, right. Right, thank you. So we could direct community services. Kara Okanuski, our parks naturalist, the Kent County naturalist, has also done a tremendous amount of history work about the Goggin Mansion, the Howe Mill, and who used to live there. And she, just in a few short months, she put together a tremendous book about Brecknock Park. But Kara is on board with working with Miss Wilson and starting to catalog those items and bring them into Kent County's possession. If we start by getting some of the items and putting them into our display cases, that's fantastic. But start looking at the long-range goal of bringing a Kent County Historical Museum under the auspices of the government.
I did call and left a message for her to see if I could meet with her, because I'm going to be honest, I did not and do not know that much about the Hanson family, who were the original owners of the Goggins house. I did not find out until recently. I knew Delaware had 2 slave owners that had the largest number of slaves in the state. One was 14, Governor Ross in Seaford, who was run out of town, and the other one I thought was at the Causey Mansion, but it's not. It's at Brecknock. And that was a little embarrassing, because I'm a hop, skip, and a jump from Brecknock, and I did not know this. And I did want to meet with her to learn more from her viewpoint about the Goggins, well, the Hanson family, because they were really the original owners. And I have done a little bit of research that found that the 17 slaves that he had so many because he had several properties, and they were not all right at Brecknock Park. They were at different places. Those are the places that I'm looking into now to see if I can find where they are. But like I said, I don't want to do research anymore. I really don't. But anyway, I don't want to give up what I'm doing either. I wanted to see until my eyes are closed for good and I make my journey upstairs, because that's where I'm going. Then I would love to see, before I go, there be a museum that says Kent County Museum. I love Kent County, and I love telling the story of Kent County. I love telling about the people that I've met. I've learned even to not enjoy, but to tell the story the first time I was ever called a derogatory name. And that was not in Texas, that was right in Camden. So there's so many stories, and you know, you guys are right. I should have been putting these things down, but with having the responsibility of doing all the collections, spearheading all the tours, tutoring, and then coming down now with a health problem, I just never thought about it. And maybe after I become a helper and not the person in charge, maybe, who knows? I know the state of Delaware has asked me, just take a book and just put your thoughts in a book. Just write your thoughts down as they come to you, and we'll straighten them out. And I just kind of rolled my eyes a little bit and said, well, I'll tell you what, if I do, it'll go to Kent County. It won't go to Delaware. I'm very protective of Kent County. I love Kent County. Well, I guess because I was raised here. And I learned a lot here. And so I just love it. That's all I can say. I just love it. I still love it. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ms. Wilson. Are there any other questions for Ms. Wilson? Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I am a history buff, and I enjoyed everything you had to say.
Good. You should I should have talked to my mother. You would be sitting under her for days.
Well, thank you for your vision for Kent County, too. I just don't know if Levy Court should be getting into the museum business. Without our constituents having a say.
That'll be fine.
I think we need to know what the people in Kent County want us to do. We serve them too.
I think that's a great idea.
So I would suggest that we get that off the ground. And why is it that the archives, you don't want to go to the state archives? I know they're in Kent County.
Because I love Kent County.
Well, I know.
I wanted to say Kent County.
But they have the
I don't want to say Delaware. I want to say Kent County.
But they have the procedures and policies in place for keeping things safe and categorizing them, and have funding too to handle that. So we don't know what this would cost.
Kent County can do the same thing.
Well, we don't know what the cost would be if we were. Well,
I don't know.
Also, your church has a nice historical marker out in front of it because it is on the national registry.
I worked 4 years to get that there, and we are also a underground network to freedom site. But my mother was very ill, and I didn't have time to deal with getting the signage and everything up for it. And then after she passed, then, my health began to take a toll. But I still kept on.
Well,
but I think that's the best idea.
Okay, I thank you for that. But in the 16 years I've been a sitting commissioner, I have found that our levy court in Kitsummik, the first levy court in the United States, has been tied up around Denrec and careened off. But to me, that should be our first museum, since that's our start. So, but that's just my saying. I'm only one vote, one commissioner, but I keep bringing it up that is a historical part of our history. So I just want to throw that out there too, that we need to move forth in a way that everybody can get a piece of the pie and make it work, I guess is the best way to say it. But we need to do it collectively and find a financial way of being able to handle it too.
That's true, because I don't have any money. But whatever you decide, however I can help you, I'm ready to help.
And I thank you for that.
Okay.
Thanks,
Any other
Lucretia.
questions?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming here tonight.
It was my pleasure, and I invite each and every one of you to just come and just spend a little time with me in the museum and just see for yourself, see whether or not you can use it, see whether or not it'll fit in with what you want, or see if you can see a story in it. That's all I ask. Okay, thank you.
So we're not making any votes or any decisions tonight. I would love to see us take advantage of Miss Wilson while she's still working the museum, and send Kara Okanuski to help catalog the items. But I'm going to leave that up to Mr. Petitmage and Mr. Shepherd. Any comments?
Well, yeah, well, I don't want to make this any longer, but I think that we need to talk about a few things like budget. And, when you get into museum, I think what Commissioner Angel was saying, if you're going to do it right, you're going to have a curator, someone who is trained in how to set up museum, what it takes. We have a building that is not ready at this time for any kind of occupancy at all. And so the building itself, if we're talking about the Goggin House, it needs significant investment in terms of restoration and climate control and building systems, things like that. So all those things need to be considered if we're moving in that direction. If we're just going to be the custodians of kind of taking possession of the collection and storing it for a period of time, that's a little different scenario. And that would be more like what you're suggesting, just cataloging and then, taking possession of the material and then working on a plan for the ultimate museum. So there's a lot of thought that needs to go into a museum, I think. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any public comment on this topic? Any public comment? Anybody on the line, Mr. Kennedy?
We have no public participants on WebEx at this time.
Thanks, sir. Adjourn back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Next item, Finance Committee. Ms. Maston is chair. Turn it over to you, ma'am.
First item on the Finance Committee agenda is the proposed law enforcement agency grants. Back in May, we had a discussion as to how we were going to disseminate about $200,000 to the various municipal police departments. And I believe, Mr. Pepper, you've had some conversations with Jeff Horvath, who's the executive director of the Delaware Police Chiefs Council, on the possibility. Would you like to share that information with us, please?
Yeah, after initially we were going to distribute the money to the local agencies based on how many times they left their jurisdictions to assist the Delaware State Police. And from what I found, none of the information was accurate as far as, and we could not obtain 100% accurate information on how many times each jurisdiction, local jurisdiction, left their city limits, town limits, to assist the state police. So that forced us to go in a different direction. After having numerous calls from numerous police chiefs, after they found out how wrong the data was, I contacted the Delaware Police Chiefs Council and talked to Jeff Horvath, he's their executive director, and asked them for some guidance. Asked them how they would, for some ways that the money could be distributed in a fair way to the different municipalities. And we have some municipalities that have 90 or 101 officers, like the city of Dover, to Frederica that has 1 full-time, and Viola that has 1 full-time, and Wyoming has 4, and we'll have to verify all these numbers before we do the final number to each municipality. But so the leadership asked the county administrator, based on what the Police Chiefs Council recommended, to come up with 3 variants as to different ways that we could do this, and let the commissioners pick as to which one they think is the most fair way to do it, and that's the way we'll distribute the money to the municipalities. So I think that's where we are right now. We have before us 3 different three different scenarios here where we can distribute the money to the municipalities, and I'll let the county administrator describe it from there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, the three alternatives that we put before you tonight, the first one is what we're calling an equal share. There are 12 agencies, 12 municipal agencies, police agencies in the county, and an equal share basis, just basically dividing $200,000 by 12, and you arrive at $16,666.67 per agency. That would be a straight up equal share distribution of the $200,000 amongst 12 agencies. Alternative two is a little bit of a twist on that equal share approach, and that would be to take a breakdown of the full-time municipal agencies and the part-time municipal agencies. So there are 9 full-time municipal police agencies in the county, and there are 3 part-time agencies. And if we, under this scenario, consider the 3 part-timer agencies as 1 full-time agency, and then we divide the $200,000 by 10, there's $20,000 per full-time agency, and the 3 part-time agencies split on an equal share basis $20,000, and or they'll each receive about $6,666 each for the part-time agencies, which are Kenton, Felton, and Frederica. And then the third scenario was a bit of a equal share plus credit per uniformed officer. And so we contacted or researched each of the agencies, the 12 agencies, and determined how many full-time officers, uniformed officers, how many part-time uniformed officers, and we arrived at a full-time equivalent for each department. And we also said we're going to take $120,000, or each agency will be given a base of $10,000. That consumes $120,000 of the 200, and the remaining $80,000 gets divided up based on how many officers each department has. And under this math, it resulted in about $385 per uniformed officer. So there's a table on this back page of your memo that details how that $80,000 would be distributed according to that formula. And so these are 3 alternative equal share approaches. You know, you could certainly come up with more, but we thought we would at least start with 3 and see what your preference is. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. So at this time, I believe we need to have some discussion on the 3 approaches here and take a consensus as to which one the commission feels Levy Court feels is the most fair way to approach this. So, Commissioner Buxton, looked like you're ready to speak.
I will speak. I'd like to hear what others. I was outside for a second, so I don't know if Commissioner Hall was waving at the same time I was. I'll exit out and come back.
Commissioner Hall?
Well, I just, I'll weigh in and say I think number 3 balances fairness with proportionality. So that's the one I like.
I missed what?
I said I think option number 3 balances fairness for
Gotcha.
everyone with proportionality, because, you know, some law enforcement agencies are larger than others, so I think it's just strikes the best balance.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Mr. Buxton?
I missed Mr. Pettit Demise. I believe that the Chiefs Association reviewed this. Did they make a recommendation on which one they preferred?
Their recommendation was for number 1. And really, so, you know, I asked Mr. Horvath, who used to be chief of city of Dover, I said, and they won't have any heartburn that department with 101 officers get the same amount as a department with 1 officer? And he said no, but it just doesn't sit right with me because of the amount of overhead compared to the 2 different departments. So that's when we said, yeah, he did mention we could do a variant of number 2 and number 3. So, but he said the chiefs said just go ahead with number 1, but it just didn't sit right with me. So that's why we came up with the other 2 alternatives.
I think 1 is the Sussex County model.
You're correct.
Mirrors that.
You're correct.
As I'm not going to, there's no perfect one. I think I'd probably look at 2, but I'd be curious to see what the others think of. It's not that I don't want to help Viola, right? But they're getting over $10,000. That's all. So it's a bit of a challenge. It's not proportional. So I think I like 2 because of that, if we're picking based on these 3, which is fair, and I appreciate the effort in trying to come up with a plan.
Other comments? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, I do have a question about number 2 because it lists the 3 part-time agencies as Kenton, Felton, and Frederica. Viola is not included in that.
Actually, that's a mistake. It should be Kenton, Viola, and Frederica.
Kenton, Viola, and Frederica. Okay, not Felton. Okay. So the last 2 times that we've done a grant to the municipal police agencies, we did it based on their ability to go outside of town limits and assist the state police, who we know are limited in Kent County. Even though the state police made changes a couple years ago that split the county at Denny's Road to Troop 3 and Troop 9 out of Odessa, it spread Troop 9, and while compacted Troop 3, there's still not enough state police covering the unincorporated areas of the county. So the last 2 times we did this, the discussion was we want those municipal agencies to go outside of the municipality to assist the state police. When we voted on this a few weeks ago, I get that the numbers were a bit skewed toward agencies that helped state police a lot, but it may have had to do with the fact that those municipal agencies didn't fill out the paperwork as religiously as they were supposed to, didn't report assisting, or they took every call every time there was a call close to their municipality. They went out and they reported it and benefited from that. But I'd still like some way to encourage the municipality to go outside and help the state police and unincorporated, because that's what we're responsible for, is the unincorporated areas. This assists every agency that lives within a municipality and doesn't do anything for those who live outside in unincorporated areas. But if this is the only 3 options we have, then I'm okay with option 3.
Option 3, if you look at that, it gives each one of the departments an equal amount of money. Plus, it stands to reason if they have more officers that can assist, they're more readily available to go out and assist. So that would sort of keep it closer to our original intent, is to give those municipalities that do go out and assist the state police, which all of them do in King County, but some of them have more opportunity than others. And if they have more police officers on duty, then they have more ability to go out and assist, whereas the fewer people, they pretty much have to stay closer to their municipality to handle complaints there. So if you want to know how I feel, I'm sort of leaning towards number 3 myself. because that gives the larger departments who have a lot more overhead than the smaller departments a little bit bigger piece of the pie, and but it spreads the money out pretty much evenly, except for you got a department with 101 people, stands to reason they'll get more money. Commissioner Maston.
Yeah, President Pepper, I agree. If I have to state a case here, I go with number 3. Definitely not number 1. There's no way I could ever support that.
And we're sure the numbers are correct on here?
No, we're not going tonight. This is just something to go by.
But the numbers could change.
We will, the amount of people per department, we will double check and verify all those numbers before we divvy up the money.
I just wanted to get that on record. That could change.
It could
because we're not
change, that's
sure,
correct.
And that we want to make sure we're going to do this. And we're going to have a policy on this for the next time it comes up. We don't have to go through this again.
We can certainly develop one, and
And
that
I
way
can
there'll be no
support number 3
question.
also then.
Yeah, I think it's just a concept, item number 3, regardless of where the numbers shake out.
And like I said, before the checks are written, we'll double check with every department to verify how many uniformed officers they have. And so like Commissioner Angel says, the totals may vary a little bit. We may be off 1 or 2 or 3 on the larger departments, and so we'll verify before any checks are written. Any other comments?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Buxton?
just, I got a little something put in front of me real quick. So I think that choosing 2 or 3 is a fair option, recognizing that the guidance from the police or their counsel or whatever they're described as recommended 16 across the board to each one. It didn't make sense to us. That's not our goal. Our goal is to assist the departments. They're not equal. So I do support choosing 2 or 3. I think that 2 is simple. It's a hybrid. It's not as simple as 1. It's not as complex as 3. It's a fixed number. Heck, it harmed one of the ones in my district, but I was still willing to go there. What am I saying? If the consensus is 3, you can count on my vote. I just wanted to put it out there that 2 is the hybrid model that kind of marries 1, which is what the police council recommended, and kind of where 3 is. But again, call the vote. I'll support whatever the majority does. I'm not going to haggle anymore.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you, Commissioner Buxton. I appreciate that. So let's start with number 3, because that seems to be where the consensus is. Those in favor of taking number 3 forward to the business meeting later on this evening, raise your hands. We got 6 up, 1 absent. So this evening, under potential action items, Ms. Maston will do the item number 3. Good.
Mr. President, I just wanted to follow up on the discussion about the account. I personally talked to 8 police departments, and the ones that I could not reach, I pulled the numbers off of their website. And the ones that I pulled website information were for Clayton, Dover, and Smyrna, and Kenton. All the others I made contact with.
So we'll just try to get a hold of those and talk to them specifically like you did the other ones. Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Pettit-Damage. So I'm sitting at number 1 of the police departments is going to change significantly to their benefit, which pulls the number down elsewhere and brings theirs up a little higher. Is that how that's going to work? Okay.
All right. We'll visit that a little bit later on this evening. Oh.
Sir, any public comment?
Now we have a second item to do before we do public comment.
A second item on the finances is the community event promotional grant request from the Wyoming Police Department for their National Night Out on August 23rd, 2021. We have a recommendation that they'd like to have $750 from Kent County Levy Court. Discussion?
Ms. Maston.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Thank you, ma'am. So Wyoming is in my district. This is an event that they hold every year. Chief Willie has been doing this for probably the last 6 years. It is a great event that really brings the Wyoming community out. They have it at the park, not at the ice cream shop. So it promotes the Wyoming Park as well. I'd like to see the $750 for the Wyoming Police Department.
Any other commissioners?
Yeah.
Commissioner Buxton?
I'm not in opposition. I am a little concerned because when we're going to open the door. We should. But Smyrna, Milford, Dover, I don't know about Harrington, maybe Harrington also. It's not a unique event. It's one that's standard on that night for all police departments, I believe, to offer. And if that is the case, shouldn't we then be expecting the others to maybe petition? That's a separate issue. I'm voting in favor of this tonight, okay? But I guess what I'm presenting to the leadership is maybe in the future, next year. Because has it already passed? Has this one already passed? The Tuesday night out is a uniform night. Is it in August? It's in
September.
September.
Yeah.
So we may have to consider something, but for tonight, I'll leave it with this. I support the motion.
Yeah, maybe look at changing our policy on that, something along those lines. Yeah.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Angel?
Yes, Mr. Petimage, our funding for the communities, how many have we given out so far?
I can't give you that number. We do a lot of these.
Well, that's why I want to get, I want to find out. This is nothing new, though.
Yeah, we do them. We've been doing them for years, so I'd have to tally it up for you. We probably do a dozen or so a year, maybe, but it varies.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Do I have agreement to move this forward to the business meeting? 6. Thank you. Any public comments on either the proposed law enforcement agency grants or community event out for the Wyoming Police Department National Night Out?
We have no public participants on the WebEx at this time.
At this point, I adjourn the Finance Committee meeting.
Thank you. At this time, we'll reconvene the business meeting and old business under Mr. Buxton, reconsideration of conditions for application CS-18-09, Sports Medicine Facility Park and Ride. Commissioner Buxton.
Thank you, Ms. Kiefer. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, commissioners. In October of 2018, the Levy Court approved the conditional use site plan for the sports medicine facility near the sports complex. As one of the conditions for that approval was that the signage, the detached signage for the building, would be a monument-style sign. At this point, the owners of the building are asking for the Levy Court to reconsider that condition and to permit just the ordinary, what would normally be allowed, pylon sign. Also within the memo to the Levy Court, the applicant has noted the pylon sign they actually want to install exceeds the limit established by the zoning ordinance. But that is a separate question to be answered by the Board of Adjustment. The only question before the Levy Court tonight is whether to effectively remove that condition for a monument sign and allow them to move forward with their project. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
you. Are we good? Okay, so there's no conversation, no need to have a conversation with the applicant. We're good to go. All right. Applicant, you're good with everything being considered tonight? All right. Show of hands and move this forward.
Now, we are in the business meeting.
Oh, we are in the business meeting. Well, then I'll make my motion to approve. Till I've been right on top of things tonight. I move that Levy Court approve this request for reconsideration of conditions for the application CS 18-09. It's based on the testimony provided. Further, the elimination of this condition of approval does not grant a variance to enable the proposed sign size setback. A Board of Adjustment application is required to request variances from the provisions of the Kent County Code. This request is scheduled for reconsideration on the 22nd of June, 2021. Well, that's why we're here. All right, so I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Based on that.
Any questions? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please, on the motion?
Well, there you go. I believe that's certainly fine with me.
Please come forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. John Falkowski, Becker Morgan Group, representing the applicant for the sign. I just wanted to confirm with the motion that it was to, not just for reconsideration, but to remove the restriction entirely, or remove the condition, item number C.
So what I can tell you is that I read the motion that was as it was presented. Ms. Kiefer, does it clarify that? Do we need to have a discussion about that?
Is to approve the request for reconsideration. If you want to further clarify for the benefit of the applicant, you could add an addendum that indeed this removes that specific condition. If you want to clarify further.
My thinking was that that's what it was doing. It in
It
effect,
does,
removed that.
But if it makes the applicant feel better to put those words in there, I don't think there's harm.
So, in short, the motion is to remove the condition.
Yes.
To eliminate the condition, as if it was never there. So if that's part of the motion, or to include that emotion, do I need to make is that enough clarification in the discussion, or do I need to do a new motion?
It's clear enough to me.
Like your talk. I don't know what we're paying you, but don't double it. So let's proceed, I guess, then with the vote.
Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Naka.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, based on my comments.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent? Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion has been approved. Okay. Moving on to new business. Potential action items from the committee meetings. Mr. Maston.
Number 1, proposed law enforcement agency grants. I move to amend Levy Court Motion M-21-121, passed on May 11th, 2021, by revisiting the distribution of $200,000 to municipal law enforcement agencies to conform to alternative number 3, as detailed in the memorandum from the county administrator dated June 17th, 2021.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Maston, second by Commissioner Angel. Any questions? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion has passed. Item number 2.
Next item involves a community event promotional grant request from the Wyoming Police Department. I move to award a community event promotional grant in the amount of $750 to the town of Wyoming, Delaware, to assist with the cost of promotional materials purchased to advertise and market the Wyoming Police Department National Night Out that will be held on August 3rd, 2021.
Second motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Masson, second by Commissioner Sweeney. Any questions? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs. Maston?
Yes?
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed. Next item, Mr. Buxton has an introduction.
Introduction of Resolution 3893. It's a resolution to extend the Kent County Stormwater Maintenance District pursuant to Chapter 52, Title 9 of the Delaware Code, Sections 90.4E, parentheses 10, Chapter 187 of the Kent County Code, Stormwater Management -20-02, Knott's Landing. Public hearing on Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Resolution 3893 has been introduced. Other business items 1 and 2, Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to go into executive session immediately following the business meeting for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for public-funded capital improvement, legal strategy sessions regarding collective bargaining, or pending or potential litigation and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004, B, 2, 4, and 9.
There is a motion. Need a second.
Second?
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please, Lori?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs. Maston?
Yes?
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. We do have executive session immediately following this meeting, which we will not be returning. Item number 2, Commissioner Angel.
Move to go into executive session immediately following the committee meetings of July 20th, 2021 for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for public-funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation, and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004, B, 2, 4, and 9.
That is the motion. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Hall. Any questions? If not, Lori, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs. Maston?
Yes?
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the item did pass. Any information items? Mr. Angel.
President.
Mr. Patamoski.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind commissioners that Thursday evening at 4, afternoon I should say, 4 o'clock is the Delaware Association of Counties meeting, virtual meeting, and hopefully a good number of Levy Court will be able to attend that at 4 p.m. Our next meeting is not until July 20th, just so everyone in the public knows that we're on a bit of a recess until July 20th at this point after tonight. And lastly, if you see any activity over the next week or so in front of the building, the Bollard project, I am told, is to begin tomorrow. It was delayed a day because of weather, but Kent Construction should be on site tomorrow, and they estimate about a week's time in construction installation of the bollards along the front. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. You and myself were in attendance of Fred Mott, who passed away. He was our Kent Conservation District historian. They named a building after him that they moved into, and it was very, very well attended, and learned a lot more, even things I didn't know about Fred, even though I've known him since I was 18. He was an amazing man. That's all I can say. You guys missed getting to know that gentleman. He was a true historian, too. Thank you.
He was a true gentleman. Yes, he was. Any other information items? Not, how about public comments? Any public comments?
We have no public participants on WebEx at this time.
Thank you. We'll move on to commissioners' comments. Any commissioner comments? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn to executive.
Second.
Are you going to say it, Commissioner Hall? Second? Second.
Second.
All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell, absent, Mrs. Maston,
Yes?
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
We are adjourned to executive session.